Hey, welcome. Week 6, Take Ground series, and it's amazing how we're working through this. Even as I kind of go deep dive into this thing, it even changes within me. I want to set this up by the first few chapters of Joshua 1 through 5. It's kind of like God's preparing Joshua and the Israelites, speaking to them. And we went over that. God's preparing them to cross the Jordan. God's preparing them. And then we again kind of get into 6 through 12 as the battles. We talked about the ites, going through all these ites you got to fight. And so like Amorites and the Hittites and marching through Jericho. And we talked about Ahan and sending the camp. And it kind of goes through that. And then there's always battles to fight. And then we get to where we're at now, which is in this chapter 13 to the very end, which is 24, which is now like they're in the promised land. They fought the big battles. They fought the big cities. God has been on their sides. They are conquerors. And now God is in this point where they're dividing up the inheritance of the land. They're taking each of the tribes, the Israelite tribes, and giving them land, teaching them how to live in this land. But they're also saying it's kind of like your responsibility because they've taken out these big armies and cities. But guess what? In each of the areas that they're given, there's still battles to fight. There's still people, there's still enemies there. But they face the big ones, but there's still battles. There's still enemies that they have to face. So we get to this point where responsibility in chapter 13 is changing, where now Joshua is now telling the Israelites, you're in charge. You own your zone. Now you're in charge of these areas. And what I think is pretty cool about this is responsibility has changed. It's no longer Joshua leading us, now other people leading their tribes. And so not only is it dividing the inheritance, it's actually dividing the responsibility. It's like Oprah saying, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. But look at Price is Right. It's in California. You win a car, but you also got to pay the taxes. California taxes. It's not cheap. And so now it's your responsibility. And so you might get something. God gave you something, but it's now your responsibility. But what I love about this is one of those people is a guy named Caleb, who is the leader of the tribe of Judah, who's been there with Moses, and he's walked through. He was one of the spies that Moses sent into the promised land to come back and tell them what they saw. And everybody else who came back and said, there's giants in the land. It's like we're like grasshoppers compared to the giants. And it was Caleb who said, yeah, there is, but our God's bigger. We got this, because God's got this. It was him who encouraged Moses and Joshua to go. And can I just tell you this? We all needed Caleb. I look at the Lord of the Rings. I love that book and series, and Frodo was a hero, of course, and so was people who fought, and so was Gandalf and all this kind. But Samwise was a great hero. That's Caleb. He supported, he fought, he loved, and he said, I'm going to be here, I'm going to push this thing. Just encouragement. So when they were dividing up the inheritance, one of the first ones was to Caleb. And I just want to say this. When this all happened, Caleb was one of the old guys, 85 years old. And Joshua said, what land do you want? You know what Caleb said? I want this one. Had the most enemies in it, and it had the worst terrain. And I just want to read this scripture verse that's going to be up on your screen, Joshua 14:11 through 12. And that'll be up on your screen. It says, I am still as strong today, this is what Caleb's saying, as I was the day Moses sent me. Now then, give me the hill country about which the Lord spoke on that day. Perhaps the Lord will be with me, and I will drive them out of the land as the Lord has spoken. He's saying, listen, I might be old. I'm still going to fight. I want to tell you this. Of all the tribes that had enemies, it was only Caleb who fought all the way through till the end, until all the enemies were gone. Everybody else left enemies. And later down, they were conquered. It was only Caleb who finished the work. And I just want to tell us is like, listen, we need to finish it. What is God calling us to do? What did Caleb do? And so I just want us to read this verse together and just talk through together and what that means to us.